Well, hello, ladies and
Hey,
gentlemen. We have Armada here. This is Mark Valentino, guitar and backing vocals of Armada.
yes, sir.
And let's make him feel at home. We'll put these glasses on. Cool. So let's rock out, Mark.
Yeah, look at you.
Rock out! Ah! Okay, that's too much. All right. Thank you very much for, let's just say, we appreciate you, Mark. I
Thank you,
really
man.
appreciate
I
talking to
appreciate you
you
taking the time. Yeah, absolutely, man. Thank you.
earlier, and we're going to ask you. So, this is Mark Valentino, as we mentioned, guitarist for Armada. And Mark, could you give us a little bit of a background of who? Well, basically, we know that you're born out of the melting pot from Long Island music scene,
Hmm.
and Armada plays hard-hitting music that transcends genres from hard rock to blues to progressive rock and back. Now, since
Hmm.
you're a mainstay of the scene for over 20 years, now can you tell me about your back history? Why did you choose to get into music, and why the bass guitar? And give us a little bit of a background of the three guitars you got behind you.
Well, my reasoning for getting into music, uh, it started when I was 9 years old. Uh, Music was always on in my house growing up. My mom always had a little AM radio playing in the morning when my brother and I would be eating our cereal, getting ready for school and stuff like that. So music was always there. In 1975, I was 9 years old, and I was in the car with my father, and we were driving, and he had the AM radio on in the car, with the old push buttons in the old AM radios, and "Born to Run" by Bruce Springsteen came on the radio, and it was as if all of a sudden I can see music in all these different colors. I remember my father going to change the radio, and I remember like grabbing his hand saying, "No, Dad, don't." And from that point forward, music took on a whole new life for me. And I just started engrossing myself in as much music as I possibly could. I got my first guitar when I was 11 years old. My cousin had given me one of his old guitars, and been self taught for the last 46 years.
Well, that's amazing, Mark. So, what is it about music that makes you so passionate? Why didn't you become like a realtor or businessman or
Hmm.
an astronaut, a
Uh,
private island?
well, I think all kids wanted to be astronauts, and some kids grow up wanting to be cops and firemen, doctors and lawyers. Well, I was a fireman for 21 years, but music has always resonated with me. It's been a way for me to convey a lot of my emotions, a way for me to deal with a lot of my emotions, and it's kept me out of trouble. I so a lot of friends of mine growing up turning to drugs and alcohol and stuff. I would sit in my bedroom and practice my guitar. And I was athletic. I played every sport that the town offered. I had a ton of friends. I had school. I don't know how I found the time, but I was that prototypical kid, sitting in the bedroom practicing that guitar for hours at a time. And it was my outlet. And it's something that it just spoke to me. Music spoke to me on so many different levels.
Yeah, it speaks to me too. Like I was talking to someone yesterday. I'm thinking of all the time when my brother and I were singing musicals from the vinyl albums in the 70s on a record player that was 20, 30 years older than we were.
Mm-hmm.
And I would sing every single number from Jesus Christ Superstar, from How to Succeed in Business Without Really Trying. Anything,
Mm-hmm.
Mary Poppins, I would sing it. Even the Sesame Street
Yep.
album, I would sing it. But never in my life did I ever think, okay, I want to do this. I decided I want to be an astronaut, a doctor,
Mm-hmm.
something like that, but never said, you know what? Since I'm very young, I want to be like an in the music or opera. And I only just decided that a few years ago. But you even started like we have Ellen plays bass. We have others who are like 8 or 9 years old playing the bass guitar,
Mm-hmm.
drumming at 4 years old. And here
Mm-hmm.
I was singing to Jesus Christ Superstar and just doing other things. And I should have said, you know what? I should take music by the ears.
Yeah.
So tell us about the other members of your family. Are you the only one in your family that actually decided to follow music?
No, I have relatives going as far back as the turn of the 20th century who played in the Milan Symphony Orchestra in Italy.
Wow.
I got the cousin who gave me my first guitar. I mean, you know, he lived through the '60s hippie era. He saw the Beatles at Shea Stadium. He went to Woodstock. He did the whole San Francisco thing. I got another cousin who's a drummer. My brother dabbles in bass. My older boy, my 27-year-old son, Mark Jr., he's the rock star in the family. He actually tours. He plays in a couple of bands that tour the country, and he plays the most brutal death metal you ever heard in your life. It's pretty rough music to listen to, but he's done well with that. I taught him how to play guitar a long time ago, and he ran with it, and he's doing very well for himself with it.
That's an amazing story to hear about your family and your son, and he's
Mhm.
also getting into music. We have a music store just down here called Long and McQuaid's. I don't think you have one in the States there, but it's a place where you can actually get. There's a whole wall of all these bass guitars. From the cheapest is like $853, I believe, is a Gibson, to the $8,000 Fender ones, and the Stratocasters, the Taylors. Those bass guitars in the back. What do you think is your favorite all-time brand?
Well,
The
these aren't
Vantage.
these aren't bass
Okay.
guitars. These are
All right.
regular six-string electrics.
All right.
My favorite brand is Paul Reed Smith, and
Oh,
those ones I have locked up in my cases. I've been a big PRS player since 1990 when I got my first one, and that's my go-to stage and studio guitar. One of the ones back here is a Brian Moore custom. That's my backup guitar. I got an Ibanez 7-string behind me. I got a Cozart Telecaster. I got Gibson Les Pauls. I've got acoustics. I got my own guitar store here in the house. I play a lot of different brands. There's a lot of great companies out there, but Paul Reed Smith is definitely my go-to guitar nearly every time.
yeah. I I'm trying to make some decisions now. I'm trying to think of my finances, and I'm like, you know what? I seem to be getting more and more drawn into learning, even at my age. I won't give you my age, but even my age, to start learning another instrument. Like I'm an opera tenor, and I'm going to be
Mm,
taking definitely. I'm going to be upgrading my vocals,
cool.
but I'm thinking and going towards learning the bass guitar. Now I have an instructor, but they're saying when you're ready, just let me know. And I might end up just wanting to play the bass guitar myself because it seems
Okay.
pretty natural. But um, Anthony Natal says, "What's up, Mark?"
That's an old fire department buddy of mine. Yep. Hey, Anthony.
That's cool. Um, I like the fact, Mark, that you have influences such as Steve Lukather, and already know who he is. He's from Toto.
That's my man.
And Gary Moore, John Petrucci, El Demiola. I've heard about El Demiola even when I was like 5 or 10 years old.
Mhm.
So he's pretty elderly right at the moment. Richie Sambora, we all know who he is, and Neil Sean. So tell us more about your extreme style of playing and your extremely melodic combined with tasteful shredding. Um,
That's
do you like to, I guess you call it, what do you call it? Hitting? What do you go? Tapping?
two-handed tapping. Oh yeah. Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
You like
See,
doing that?
yeah, I can definitely jam with that. Um, I was in high school from 1980 to 1984, and I find that growing up in the early 80s, as I did, is when you had that surge of great guitar players coming out, and certainly not the first, but the most influential was Eddie Van Halen. And in 1978, that first Van Halen album came out, and all of a sudden we heard Eruption, and all of us were like, "What the frick is that?" He just took guitar playing to a whole nother level. And while I never tried to emulate Eddie Van Halen, I wanted to have my own style and sound. I did draw from him as an influence, and just like the other ones that you mentioned, and so many more that I could possibly mention as well. Uh, I learned how to play fast before I learned how to play well, if that makes any sense. Um, Kill 'Em All, the first Metallica album, came out in 1984, And that was so different than the commercial hard rock and metal that was coming out that I learned how to play that entire first album note for note before I could learn how to play it well. I had the speed chops. And then I started listening to a lot of Journey. And if there was one band that I had to take with me onto a desert island for the rest of my life, I can listen to one band only, it would be Journey, because they have elements of everything that I love. And to me, it's got to be more than about the speed. There's got to be melody, and there's got to be some passion behind it. There's got to be feel. It's got to hit you in the gut. And that's what I try to convey in my style. Yeah, the two-handed tapping stuff, it's a great little party trick, and Van Halen would be the first to tell you if he was still around. It's nice. It has its place, but it's just a trick like anything else.
Yeah, it's amazing the way that people play the bass guitar. It was a 11-year-old on America's Got Talent who played. I think it was part of the Bohemian. He would just put it behind his back like this and started.
Mm-hmm.
Is that something you're capable of doing?
He's not playing bass guitar. He's playing regular guitar. He's not playing bass. Regular guitar. Yeah.
It's interesting though.
Yeah. You know something? The internet has spawned a bunch of little prodigies that, they're coming out of their mother's womb playing guitar better than I ever will, because of all these online lessons and everything. And there's this little 10-year-old girl, Ellen, that she plays bass.
Ellen plays bass, yeah.
This little girl, Ellen. And she is, you close your eyes, you think you're listening to a 40, 50-year-old seasoned veteran.
Oh, yeah.
Little girl, that the bass guitar is bigger than her, and she's just a phenomenal talent. There's a lot of, I guess only because the internet now allows people to be seen more so than they were 40, 50 years ago. The talents might have been already there, but you just couldn't see them in such a broad spectrum as you can now by just clicking a mouse, and you can see a little kid on YouTube playing guitar, playing Rings Around Me. But they're out there.
Oh, yeah. There's always going to be someone to supplant us from our pedestal, and someone else is going to take over.
Absolutely.
But Ellen is phenomenal. Like 9 years old, and she's sitting there going boom, boom, boom. Like, oh my goodness.
And she's got feel. She's got chops. She's got a great sense of timing. Incredible.
Yeah, and the youngest drummer I've ever seen was 4 years old, and if you close your eyes, you would think that a 50 or 60-year-old that was playing drums for like 50 years old. You can be younger and younger, and doesn't matter how old you are. Pick up the bass, you can pick up the electric guitar, you can pick up the acoustic and do anything. You can pick up anything at any time. If I wanted to, definitely my age, I can pick up the bass guitar or any guitar, or even the acoustic guitar, and start doing the tapping on the wood and like this,
Yeah.
I mean, it's incredible. Mark, how did you get, I don't want to say mixed up with these people, but how did you end up getting, well, let's start out. How did you choose the band Armada? Where did you get that name from?
Well, first off, they chose me, but I'll get to that story in a second. The actual way they came up with the name was Jose was driving home from work one day 20 years ago, had put the band together. They had started rehearsing, and he's like, we need a name. And he was sitting in traffic, and the vehicle in front of him was a Nissan Armada.
Oh.
And that's how he came up with the name, which I thought was great. I'm very grateful that a Ford Pinto wasn't sitting in front of him.
Ladies and gentlemen, Pinto.
Yeah, exactly.
Already headed for disaster with a name like that.
Oh, Malone. Yeah. So that's where the name came from. And the funny thing is, I was playing in another band 20 years ago that I used to share the stage with these guys. I knew with this band years before they ever asked me to play. So
wow.
I was already familiar with them on a professional level.
So members of the band now, the lead singer, vocals, Jose Mars. Am I pronouncing his name right? Jose?
Yes.
Jose?
Yep. Jose. Yeah, he's cool.
Yeah, now, he's influenced by David Bowie, Rolling Stones, AC/DC, Foghat, and Billy Joel. What a combination. You don't put Foghat and Billy Joel together unless you're a dangerous, really. Yeah. And Thin Lizzy. I mean, that's amazing. So what is it about the members of the band, for instance, Jose and Jerry Van Rosato, who plays bass and backing
Mhm.
vocals. What is it about these people that you kind of mix and mash and that you enjoy playing, that you don't suddenly just want to give them, say, I don't like you guys, I don't want to be in this band, I'm going to go play
Yeah,
duet with my
yeah.
son somewhere?
Mhm. Well, the thing is, I had fronted an original band for 14 years, from 2000 to 2014, which on Long Island is unheard of. Because I don't know how much you know about Long Island music, but we're the cover band and tribute band capital of the world. You
Wow.
can go anywhere in the world, you say you're a band from Long Island, they're like, oh, what band are you covering? Not that there's anything wrong with it. Cover bands and tribute bands have their place and their fan base like anything else. Um, but I had my band had run its course. 14 years with the same band, doing everything for the most part. It broke me, so I needed a break. I started playing in a couple of other bands after that, but I hadn't been in a real project since 2019. I took some time off. I wanted to devote my energies into other hobbies and passions, and I was still playing guitar, but I just didn't have any desire to get back into a band. Uh, about a year ago this time, I started putting up ads in Facebook music groups, music groups, uh, just testing the waters to see what was out there. I was willing to go into a cover band, a tribute band, original. I was willing to go into rock, blues, country. I just wanted to get back out there again. I started feeling the itch, and I wasn't finding anything that I liked. So by last August, I had pretty much just forgotten about the ads. I kind of went about my business. And then one day I get a phone call from Dean Steiger, who's the drummer of Armada. And he's like, we're an all original band. We've been around for 20 years. We need a guitar player. Our guitar player decided that he didn't want to be in the band anymore. And,
Wow.
just no animosity, just decided it wasn't for him. And we need a guitar player. We saw what you look like. We heard your music. We want you in this band. It wasn't even like I had to audition. They're like, we think you're going to be a great fit. And I was very flattered, with Dean's honesty and his kindness. And I'm like, yeah, man, send me some music and let me work on it. And as soon as he sent me all their stuff, I knew that was the band I wanted to be in, because the musicianship is top notch. Jose is a phenomenal singer, and he writes some pretty incredible lyrics. And everybody brings a different influence to this band. I mean, if you look at the website and you see all the bands that influence us, we all come from different directions. But when you put it all together, it's Armada. So I started rehearsing with them last August. Started learning a lot of their material. I didn't offer up my material from my old band or anything that I was doing, because I wanted to be respectful to the situation and learn their music. And when the time was right, they started asking me to contribute. And they've pretty much given me free reign to interpret the songs my way, meaning that I still play the parts as they were recorded. Some of the guitar solos I've changed around a little, because I got to play me. I can't pretend to be somebody else. And the guys have been really, really gracious in allowing me to do that. And I think it works.
So is this band something you'd like to play till you're like Mick Jagger's age, I guess?
I,
Almost. I think
yeah,
he's
yeah,
80 in July.
yeah, man, it's a band is like, it really is like a relationship. It's like being with a family, it is a family, when you think about it. And when I'm not looking forward to doing something, anything in my life that I am not finding interesting, or I don't like to do, or I'm looking for reasons not to be there, I got to walk away. I have to quit, whatever the situation it is. It could be a job, it could be a relationship, it could be a friendship, a hobby. If I'm not happy, I got to walk away, because otherwise I'm not going to give 110%. And that's how I live my life, 110%. I like being with these guys. We're friends. We talk on an almost daily basis. We have a little WhatsApp chat that we're always joking with each other. We look forward to rehearsal. We look forward to shows. We have a special original showcase that we're doing tomorrow night. I can't wait to see these guys. I can't wait to be on stage tomorrow night playing with my buddies.
That's incredible. At least you get a chance to play with them live. We had a podcast the other day of an online band called Vox and Sticks, and they never met each other, but they live within 20 minutes from each other in New York City, and they're hoping one day they'll get to meet and play live, but they just play online,
That's
and it's
amazing.
really interesting. Yeah, and I've learned a lot about musicians, and I've learned about a lot about music since I started this podcast a year ago,
Mhm.
and makes me want to just send in a resume to be lead singer of a band or something, because I really love it. Just talking to musicians and getting to know them, and hearing what kind of music and genres. And
Mhm.
so when you there was also a song we're going to play for everyone later, but it's called Fields of Fire. Can you tell me if a song like that is collaborative effort, or does one person usually take the lead?
Okay. Normally, with the way they did things with their old guitar player, is that it really was four cooks in the room adding all the ingredients into the pot. And that's how they did things. My writing style has been more solitary all these years because with my last band, I did write, we had 35 original songs in my last original band, 34 of which I wrote myself, one that the old singer had written. I'm
Wow.
I'm I'm very creative on my own. Like this, I'm in my recording studio right now. You can't
Mm,
see, but I have all my recording gear on the other side of this computer.
that's amazing.
And I'm like that mad scientist who locks himself up in a room and creates this living, breathing Frankenstein's monster. So I find I do better when I write something, and I've been arranging songs for a million years. I've been writing songs and recording songs for a million years. I get this like idea in my head and I run with it and I create it. I give it to the band, and I'm trying to be more of a. I'm trying to learn how to play better with others. That's what I'm trying to say, because I can bring something that's totally completed, and the three of them will start picking it apart because they hear their parts. Well, the drums can be done like this, and the bass can be done like that, and I didn't even bother writing lyrics. I give the song to Jose, and he writes the lyrics. I mean, I have written lyrics for many, many songs over the years. I find right now I got a guy who writes really great lyrics. Let's play to our strong suits. He's going to deal with the lyrics. I'm going to write and arrange most of the music. And it seems like now we've put together 3 to 4 new songs that I brought all the music in. Jose's been writing the lyrics. We tweak a couple of things here and there, and the songs are in our live set. Fields of Fire, which is the first song that we actually put together as a band, and been playing it live. And it's a departure from the usual Armada sound. It's very commercial. It almost has a pop sensibility to it. Me being a huge Dream Theater fan, I could write songs that are 15, 20 minutes long and write these complicated, odd time signature songs. But number one, it's difficult to replicate live. And number two, I think people's attention spans when you're out in a club or a venue or even a small theater, they want short and quick, get to the point songs. So that's what we're trying to do here with Armada. Cut the fat, as we say.
Yeah, cut the crap and just go and grab your instruments and just start playing the music. What do you think? How do you feel sets your band apart from other bands in your genre?
I think what sets us apart is we're not just pigeonholed to one style. A lot of bands are that we've played along with, bands that are from Long Island, our peers, great bands. But sometimes I hear a repetitiveness in their writing. And I'm not saying that as a bad thing. You can go to the well many times and pull up a full bucket. You can do that. But we're not pigeonholed to one style. I certainly don't write in one style. I listen to so many different types of music that I may hear something in a country song that I'm not going to rewrite that song and plagiarize it, but it might spark an idea in me. And the next thing I know, I've got a song that's got a country feel to it, or a rock feel, or a blues. I also do a lot of instrumental music. I'm in the process now of putting together a solo album. on top of what I'm doing for the next Armada album, of just material that I know that wouldn't be good for Armada, but it would be really good in an instrumental setting. So what sets us apart is that we don't put ourselves in a box. We don't paint ourselves into a corner. We write, record, and perform music from the heart that may sound like different genres, but the common thread is you're going to know it's Armada every time you hear it.
Oh yeah, because it's the absolute, like, the sound, and you understand with the influence, because you hear a little bit of this band, you hear a little bit of this band, you hear the collaborative efforts you might get from like Billy Joel or something.
Mhm.
Can you okay, let's go back to the members of the group. Now, can you tell me a little bit about each member of the band and their role within the
Sure.
group? Now, I know we talked about that earlier, but I want to get a little deep dive into them. Now, let's start with
Absolutely.
the first one. So Jerry Van Rosado, he's a bass and backing vocals. Now, what is it about him and his thunderous bottom and the sound, and where did he get the young guy? Why is he the young guy? Is he the youngest?
Well, myself, Jose, and Dean are all eligible for American Association of Retired Persons benefits. We're
Oh,
all over 50. And Jerry's not even 40 years old. So it's like, he stands next to us. And, he's definitely a lot younger, but he plays with a degree of dexterity that is beyond his years. He plays like, again, you close your eyes. You don't think you're listening to this young guy. You're listening to a person that has put the time in to master their craft. So I love playing with Jerry. And this is the first band I've ever played in where I'm the only guitar player. All my other bands had a rhythm guitar player. And I used to love having that heavy, rich sound behind me whenever it's solo during a song. I don't need that with Jerry. He's a phenomenal musician. When he learns something, he locks it in, and he's always got this smile on his face when we're on stage. So he's a pleasure to work with, man. It's a pleasure to be around. And he's got such a heavy, he's heavy, he plays heavy, but he's got this light touch, and he just knows what to play. It's perfect.
So how do you feel about Jerry Van's playing? Like, does he like to slap as well?
I've never seen him do any pop and slap, but I know he does not play with a pick. And lately, I've been trying to write some stuff that has these like little like difficult passages where I'm trying to trip him up just to see what he can do. And God damn it, man, he matches me every step of the way, So it's like this little inside joke between me and him. I'm always trying to see if I can get this guy like to cramp his hand up. It doesn't happen. He just follows right along, and he's just a phenomenal musician and just a wonderful human being.
How's his character? I guess you always get along with him? And when there's a disagreement in the band, how do you deal with it?
Well, Jose and I are the two strong personalities. Jose, he's a lead singer. He's got a theatrical acting background, and he does not shy away from the spotlight. He's no shrinking violet. He's the front man. He's out front with the crowd. And I'm not going to call it an ego, but Armada's been his baby for over 20 years. So he has a mindset of where he wants the band to go. And 99% of the time, we'll all follow along. But I'm also a very strong alpha male personality. So there are times when I have an idea, and he and I will maybe disagree at first, and we'll each throw each other's opinions to the other side and listen to each other. And Jerry's just one of those guys that just hangs in the back, like Dean, the drummer. And it's like the two of them are watching a tennis match between me and Jose.
Yeah.
But at the end, Jose and I always find that common ground where we both go, oh yeah, that works. And it's kind of good because you can't have four alpha males in a band. It's going to tear itself apart from the inside. There's got to be that give and take. There's always going to be the ones who are the stronger personalities. It's going to be the ones who, I'm not saying they're weak, but they don't offer up the opinion, but they know how to make it work. So Jerry's super quiet, super chill. Uh, when he does offer up ideas, he's got some great stuff. He's definitely very musically inclined, as is Dean. Dean, for a guy who doesn't really play guitar or bass or anything like that, he has a good ear to listen. And then if he wants to rearrange something, none of us are going to go, well, what do you know? You're the drummer. No, we listen. I myself, I play drums just as long as I've been playing guitar. So I can understand where Dean comes from. And it just works. The dynamic works.
So how do you feel that because you and Jerry Van Rosato work together, what happens if one of you can't make that band session? Do you have a backup, or do you just cancel the whole session?
No, we're a four-piece, and we're the four cast of characters. There's no understudy. There's no stand-in. I was playing in a cover band some years back that, number one, I really didn't want to be in a cover band, but I was asked to play, so I joined. And there was times on stage I'd look over and there'd be somebody playing bass or somebody playing drums, and I'm like, that's not a member of the band. They would have, like, somebody couldn't make a gig, they had somebody else fill in. We're not like that. We don't book any shows that all of us can't make. We all have lives outside of the band, so I have a calendar of all the unavailable dates for all of us. If one of us is going on vacation, or if one of us has a wedding coming up or something like that, we don't take a show if all four of us can't make it. If there's a night where one of us can't make rehearsal, we'll reschedule it to a different night to accommodate, to make sure all four of us are there. Especially now that we're writing new material, we need to be with each other. If it was just for the sake of playing the existing songs, the existing 12 or 13 songs that we have, sure, we can miss a few weeks of rehearsals and then still do a gig and be 100% fresh. But now that we're trying to write and eventually record all this new stuff, we got to make sure all four of us are in the same room at the same time.
Yeah. How about your how about Dean Steiger, the drummer?
Oh yeah.
How do you feel is your relationship with him?
I love him. I love all these guys in this band. They're my brothers. But Dean is just like this super cool sweetheart, man. He's got like this laid back surfer dude vibe. And he will never hesitate to reach out after a gig, like the day later or something like that, and just compliment. He's just the one, again, another beautiful human being that I really, really love being around. Never heard a negative word out of his mouth. He's always very, very encouraging. He loves to play. He'll take a gig anytime I can book one. He's always up for a gig, and he's like the first one there. Like we're doing a special original music showcase tomorrow night at this place called the Parsnip Lake House out in Lake Ronkonkoma. It's about 40 miles from here. We're probably not going to go on until maybe 8:30, 9 o'clock tomorrow night. I know Dean's going to be there sometime in the early afternoon tomorrow, getting his gear all set up, getting ready to go, making sure that the place is ready for us. He's just one of those guys that he's super solid, super reliable, and he's a pleasure to be around.
That's amazing. It must be so exuberating to be part of a band of brothers, I guess you call them, and being able to play with them and sound in sync with them. And so what about your all your fans? How do you deal with a massive amount of fans, especially the groupies that might just come up to you and start to, grab you and pull your clothes off and say, "Hey, Dean, oh, Mark," how do you deal with that?
When that happens, can you please let us know? I'm in a strong, loving relationship with a woman that I've been with for the last 5.5 years. Gonna be getting married in the next couple of years. She is super cool. She never gets jealous. Listen, we're not exactly, a boy band. No one's ever made a mistake as the Backstreet Boys or anything like that.
Yeah.
But she's super cool. I was in a band once before where I was in a relationship with a woman that anytime, if there was any women on my side of the stage looking up at me, she would get incredibly jealous and cause a scene. It was so uncomfortable. We're not really the kind of band that's attracting groupies per se. I leave that to my son and his band. You know, they're all in their 20s. I imagine they got the groupie scene going. We have people who are just music lovers. You know, they're really into the music. They've some of them have been coming to see the band for many years. So we just got a good core group of fans. I don't even call anybody fans; they're all friends. You know, you're coming out to a show, you're a friend. You know, we're not going to treat you like a fan. We're regular people too. You know, so we just have people who love to hear the music, and you know, whether we're playing to a packed house or we're playing to a light crowd for whatever reason, we play for the people that are there, and we give them 100% of us every single time.
I agree with you, Mark, because I was told that if you can't give 100%, give 10% of that 100%. You know, that's 100% of 10%.
There you go.
And yeah, you should watch one of our other episodes with Jim Diamond review. His wife Beth is the
Mhm.
drummer of the band. So it's interesting that if you're being part in a relationship, that the one that you're with should be in the band as well, or at
Well,
least their manager.
my last original band, the one that I had together for 14 years, Cosmos Moon, my now ex-wife was the singer of that band for
Mm.
many years, and she was a professional opera singer who has a phenomenal voice. And you know, were there times on the way to rehearsal where having a knockdown, drag-out argument in the car? Sure, but by the time we got to rehearsal or by the time we got on stage, we left it behind, and we had more fun together on stage than we did fight. You know, but having a family member in the band could be a little trying. You know, there's no doubt about that.
Here's a
But,
question for you. What do you think? Who do you think is the best drummer, a female or a male? Because I've seen some pretty darn good female drummers and bass players, and I mean, like, is there a comparison, or can you just say that they play equally well? I'm just asking for an opinion.
if I had to answer this question from a purely esoteric level, I can't say better. There's no such thing as better. You know how you find out who's better in something? Sports. Who throws the ball the fastest? Who's got the most yards rushing? Who's got the most points? That's when you can describe who's best in something where there's a measurable amount. You can't do that with music. To say who's the best musician, it's too subjective. Would a man be able to hit harder in many cases than a woman? More often than not, maybe, only because a man's physiology, we're the hunter gatherers, you know, our body genetics is more inclined to, you know, larger bone structure and muscle mass. But man, there's some women out there that my old drummer from my band Cosmos Moon, Lucille, she and I were the original founding members of that band, and we were together in that band for 14 years. She was one of the hardest hitting drummers I ever heard in my life.
Wow.
It never occurred to me to think, oh yeah, she's a woman. She's just Lucille, and she's a powerhouse of a drummer. So I know she hits harder than some of the guys I played with. So I don't know if it's fair to say if a man is generally going to hit harder than a woman or better. I think it's just whatever that person brings to the table. Because sometimes I've seen some women who hit incredibly hard, and some guys who do as well.
No, I've seen that's interesting, but I've seen especially Dean's drumming. Like whenever I watch a drummer and a bass player at the same time during a performance, I wonder, number one, who exerts the same amount or more force or
Oh, the drummer every
energy when
time.
they
The
play?
drummer every time. The
The
drummer's using his
drummer, huh?
whole body. You know, and again, from playing drums, you're using your entire body. One of the times I brought my girlfriend Rosemary with me to my old studio, I had her sit down behind the drum kit, and I was just trying to teach her a basic rudimentary pattern, and she couldn't get the mechanics of it down because you have to use your left hand, your right hand, your left foot, your right foot in total syncopation.
Wow.
So I find the drummer is usually the hardest working person on stage because it's the most physical of all the instruments. Jose, yep, you got to exert you got to use your voice. You have to sing from your diaphragm. You got to have cardiovascular endurance because it's a lot of breathing. But there are moments in time when I'm playing my guitar solo where he can stop and he's not doing anything. He just has to stand there. The drummer is in constant motion. So some of our songs, especially one of the new ones that I've written, it's a very fast, heavy double bass metal song that I know it's taking a lot out of him, that we got to play that song sooner in the set rather than later so he doesn't exert too much energy and peter out towards the end of the set. So I will always go on record by saying that the drummer is the hardest working person on stage in any band because of the amount of physical exertion that you have to produce. Me, I just got to stand there and go like this. That's all I got to do. It's not that hard. And I can, drink a cup of coffee and play with one hand, But the drummer, yeah, that's the hardest working person on stage by far.
No, amazing. So your guitarist and the backing vocal, what do you prefer to do more, the guitaring or the backering vocaling?
I'm a guitar player through and through, man. And my vocal ability is extremely limited. I mean, I've had bands that have tried to hide the microphone from me. I am not a strong lead singer by any stretch of the imagination, but I do find that I have an ability to harmonize with the other guys in the band. I like to provide backing vocals. I like to produce to be as productive as I can in the band, but my backing vocals are limited. Jerry does most of the backing vocals behind Jose. So given the choice, yeah, I'm gonna play guitar every single time.
Now, you like my brother likes El Di Meola. I used to listen to him when he was younger. But when you listen to El Di Meola, do you peter around with the guitar and just try to match what he plays?
Oh yeah. You see, I took 2 guitar lessons in my entire life, Chris.
Wow.
When I was 11 years old. I had a paper route. Not too many people remember what paper routes are these days, but live in newspapers, kids. Ask your mom and dad; they'll tell you all about it. And I had this one guy on my paper route who was a guitar teacher, and he's like, "Oh, look, I'll give you guitar lessons, then, and you'll be a great guitar player." I'm like, "Okay." The first lesson was the parts of the guitar. Like, this guy was charging me $10 an hour back in 1977. I'm a kid with a freaking paper route. I don't have a real job. And most of my money is going into him saying, well, these are the tuning pegs and these are the frets and this is the pickups. The next lesson a week later was how to properly hold the guitar. I'm like, by the time this guy gets through to show me how to play guitar, I'm either going to go poor or I'm never going to learn a thing. So I said, screw this, man. And I've been totally self-taught for my entire life. I learned like most people my age learned back in the 1970s when you would put the needle on the turntable and you would play along to the song. And when you wanted to learn another part, you would lift the needle up, bring it back, and drop it again. Or
45s.
Had 45s, had regular LPs. Or you hit the rewind button on the cassette player. And that's how you learn. This is like light years away from before Guitar World magazine came out, or Guitar Player, or even before them was Guitar for the Practicing Musician, because that was the first magazine that had tablature. It had, instead of the 5 lines of staff, it had the 6 strings of the guitar and these little numbers that told you what fret to put your fingers on. And that's how we used to learn. It was either by ear or by using tablature. We didn't have the internet or anything else. So I used to play along to all the records of all my favorite guitar players. El Di Meola, admittedly, was one of the most difficult ones for me to learn. I did learn some of his stuff. It's a lot of staccato picking. It's a lot of sweep picking and arpeggios and whatnot. But I loved El Di Meola because it was a departure from the usual rock and metal stuff, because he has an extreme Latin influence and a jazz influence and a fusion influence in his songs that to me was a refreshing change of pace from all that rock and metal and hair metal stuff that I was listening to back in the 70s and then into the 80s. Total departure.
Yeah. Are you familiar with Jeff Lynne from ELO? Like, that's
love ELO. I love ELO.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
The way he plays is
He's amazing. You know what it is? I'm a Beatle freak. The Beatles are like my all-time gods. I compare everything to the Beatles. When you listen to a lot of ELO, Electric Light Orchestra, you hear that Beatle influence. Like Jeff
Mm-hmm.
Lynne could have been the fifth Beatle. There's no doubt in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
No doubt in my mind. When he did the Traveling Wilburys with George Harrison and Tom Petty and Roy Orbison and Bob Dylan, you
Mm-hmm.
could hear, you could see that Beatle influence right there, especially when you got George Harrison in the band. But I love
Amazing.
love
Yeah.
Jeff.
Oh yeah. I mean, like I before I got into music, I was just watching and listening, but now I'm really into it, trying to figure out. Wow, look at the way they play. Look at that drummer. Do you think they exert more? You know. So I kind of like the mechanics of it all, including like I don't. To tell you the truth, like, and she's probably watching, but probably after this stream, she'll call me and she'll kind of chew me out. But she's a flautist. And I'm going to say this right now, you're listening. The flautists don't have to do too much. They just put their arms in here and go, that's all they do. It's like, there's no work. But obviously, the work is knowing where the notes are because you can't see the notes. You have to figure out where they are. But when you're playing the bass guitar, you have to still look down. Now, I've heard of left-handed bass guitars, like in the Beatles and Paul McCartney. So you're a right-handed player, right?
I'm right-handed, but my last original band, Cosmos Moon, our old rhythm guitar player and lead singer, Matt Dower, my brother, my best friend in the world, may he rest in peace. He played lefty, and
Wow.
it was like every now and then I would sit down and just grab his guitar and try to play lefty, and oh my God, I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. Like he would grab my righty guitar and try to play my guitar, and he's like, I can't do it. So there's some lefties out there. There's not as many guitar choices. That was always his biggest pet peeve. Like I had a house full of guitars. I had 42 guitars in my house at one point. I was buying like crazy. Yeah, I was collecting for a long time. He had maybe a half a dozen because there's just not as many choices out there for left-handed guitar players. But yeah.
Yeah. I interviewed Richie Rosenberg, who was on Bruce Springsteen's band. He was in Conan O'Brien, and you wouldn't believe how many instruments he has. Like every musician, and I knew one. Behind him was a wall of like 30 or 40 or 50 guitars and bass guitars, electric guitars, and I knew someone also who he said he had to sell them, and I'm like, oh, you're selling your guitars? No, but like I said earlier, a lot of them are expensive. Can you tell me what do you I know I digress here. What do you think is the best venue that you and Armada had played at? It has to combine echoes, it has to combine fans, it has to combine free food. No. What was the best venue that you've ever played at?
Right now, in this incarnation of Armada with me and the band, I'm going to go on record by saying Lucky 13 Saloon in Brooklyn, New York.
Oh.
And a place in Brooklyn, New York called the Meadows would run a close second. The size of the stage was huge. The crowd totally at Lucky 13, we had the place packed. It's a true rock club. It's not a bar that just has a little stage in the corner. This is a rock club. And we're going to be back there on August 5th. We'll be playing back there again in August. But Lucky 13, by far, the best venue we've played so far with me. Now, we've played a lot of good places, and I'm grateful for any of the promoters who we've booked through. We guys like Kevin Scandato, who does Lucky 13, and Andy Sulo and Patty Dodge. And the newest promoter that we're playing with is a fellow named Dave Black. Dave is one of the premier promoters on Long Island. I was trying to get on his radar for the longest time. Finally, he and I connected, and we're doing our first show with him tomorrow night at the Parsnip Lake House in Ronkonkoma, a big Wednesday night original music showcase. Because Long Island is so glutted with cover and tribute bands, the promoters that I just mentioned are all trying to get Long Island back towards original music. So that's why we're really psyched to work with Dave. But yeah, so far, Lucky 13 Saloon in Brooklyn has been the best place for us to play. I know Armada has played some great shows at a place called The Space in Westbury. It's a huge movie theater that was converted into a concert hall. My last band I played, 89 North, is one of the biggest venues on Long Island. Crazy Donkey used to be a huge venue on Long Island. So had some pretty intense shows, but so far with Armada, yeah, I'm going to say Lucky 13 has been the best one so far.
Wow, that's interesting. What do you think? Did you ever? Were you ever given? Was a band ever given an opportunity that you just missed out on, or maybe the venue was too far, or you couldn't gather the finances to go?
Not that I can recall. Not in the time that I've been in the band. I've never heard the guys talk about anything like that. I know in the past, some shows that were offered to open up for certain people, the logistics might have been too far. Where if you've got to drive 5 hours to get to a gig, you know it's a little too far, because you got to drive 5 hours, then you got to play a gig, and you're either going to stay over that night and come home the next day. You're going to try to come home the same night, and you're going to fall asleep behind the wheel and kill yourself. So I've had some opportunities to open up for certain people that just logistically it just did not work out.
Yeah. What's the worst show or tour you've ever played, and what made it so terrible?
That's a good question. Have not had a bad show with Armada. Have not had a bad show with these guys. Venues have been good. Promoters have been good to us. Other bands we've played with, we've had a good time. We did play a show recently in Astoria. Not going to mention the band, but one of their players was overheard bad mouthing us while we were on stage. And by the end of the show, the promoter was like, just stop talking and listen to these guys. And by the end of our set, he was like, wow, these guys are really good. I don't know if he was intimidated by us. I don't know if he just didn't like our music, whatever it was. But that would probably be like the only downside of so far playing with Armada. Really, I've never had. I had one show with a band one time where my guitar amp just died on stage.
Oh,
It just blew up.
that's the worst time.
That's the worst kind, because I use a line. I love using Line 6 digital modeling amps. I love having all my effects and everything pre-programmed into the amp, so I don't have to bring a whole bunch of pedals. So when that amp died on stage, they had to plug me into another amp that barely had any distortion, much less my reverb and my chorus and my delay. And I just had to play the best I could. Not that I rely on sound effects, but you do shape your sound around certain things that these amps provide. So, little things like that would be the only bad things I've ever had. I've enjoyed every gig. I live to play. So I don't want to look for the negative stuff. Are there gigs when there's not as many people in the audience? Sure. Are there times when you're playing to a packed house where you know that they're waiting for the band to come on after you? Yeah, that's far and few between. Nearly every gig, they've been great gigs. I've been fortunate. I don't have too many war stories of bad things or horrible times. I'm fortunate in that respect.
Do you have any funny or interesting stories from being on the road that you can share with us?
Had one show years ago. We played with this one band. The singer was so drunk that he ended up pulling his pants and his shorts down on stage and grabbed himself. Like he I probably shouldn't even tell this. He had a whole bunch of girls in the front, and he goes, "Do you guys want to see the turkey?" And what do you mean want to see the turkey? Dropped his pants, grabbed his junk, and started gobbling like a turkey.
Oh my God!
Yeah.
I said funny stories, not bad stories.
Yeah.
God, I want to remember that next Thanksgiving.
There you go. We were doing a show one time with my old band, with my friend Matt, the one who passed away. It was his first show with us. And the venue that we were playing at the doorman, his name was Huggy Bear.
Oh,
And he,
that's funny. That's funny because I was watching an episode of. I
Starsky and Hutch.
decided, yeah, I
Yeah,
was watching an episode of Starsky and Hutch, and along comes Antonio. It's like,
Antonio
hey,
Vargas.
that's
Yeah, yeah. Well,
Antonio
this
fucking.
guy
I'm
Huggy
thinking,
Bear,
Huggy Bear.
yeah. Well, this
What a
Huggy Bear
coincidence.
wasn't black. This Huggy
Okay.
Bear was a Hispanic dude, and he was like 6'4". I mean, you know,
Oh,
he would walk
wow.
past you, and it was like a shadow coming near. And he was sweet to me. He loved me, and I mean, this guy had just gotten out of prison. I mean, he was a real badass dude. And
Jeez.
he walks up to me on stage, and he's like, "Hey, Mark, how you doing? What's going on?" He looks at Matt. Now, Matt's having a hard time plugging his stuff in. He's all nervous. It's his first gig. And Huggy's just like, "You better get your stuff set up or you're not going to play. I swear to God." And Matt just, like, if he was flustered before, he became a blubbering wreck. I'm like, "Huggy, leave him alone. It's his first show. Come on, leave him alone." So little things like that. My old band, same band with that guy, Matt, the drummer, Lucille, she was famous for hitting so hard that she would shatter drumsticks. I used to get hit
Wow.
in the head. I used to get hit in the back. It was like shrapnel, man. Like the little things like that. Just funny stuff like that. Promoters who get the band's name wrong when they're introducing you on stage. Gear blowing up. Just the usual stuff that most bands deal with.
Oh, that's amazing. Wow. Yeah, you should get a chance to look up Mia Morris. She's 17
Okay.
years old. She's a multi-instrumentalist, and when she plays the drum during one of her lyrics, I don't know if you've seen it, and I don't know if Dean, correct me if you do this, but she'll go like this, and she'll put the stick on one of the drums. She'll hit the stick, it flies up in the air, and you grab it.
I've played with some drummers who do that. Dean, I've never seen Dean do that.
No,
Yeah, it's a cool trick. It is a cool trick.
but she's good. She's good. She uses a looper, which is interesting, and she's a one-woman band, and she's only like 17.
Okay.
She was on America's Got Talent. She's amazing.
Cool.
I reached out to have her on the podcast, but she hasn't returned my email yet. So yeah, that was an interesting story. But the turkey one, I'm gonna be, oh my God, I'm gonna be a nightmare for that
Yeah,
one.
that was over 20 years ago, and I still remember like it happened yesterday.
Yeah,
Yeah,
thanks. So 20 years from now, I'm gonna remember what you said. Yeah. No.
I'm still scarred.
That's fine. So tell us about your how do you write music? Like, do you start with the lyrics first or the music, or do you just jam and say, hey, listen to this, guys, and then, okay, where's the lyricist? How does your tell us about that?
Well, with Armada, again, they used to write as a cohesive group. My writing has always been whatever sparks me first. It could be the lyric, it could be the music. I used to keep a little notepad and a pencil in the glove compartment of my car. I would keep a notepad and pen in my briefcase when I was taking the train into the city to work. Ideas can come at any given moment. And it could be a musical idea. It could be a lyrical idea. It's whatever is hitting me in the moment. Lately, since I rebuilt my recording studio, and because Jose writes such great lyrics, I've been coming up with music first. But I'm starting to get that lyrical feeling again. So I'm starting to jot down notes for words. Like Bernie Taupin and Elton John. Bernie Taupin was the guy who wrote all the lyrics. Elton John wrote all the music.
Mm-hmm.
I can do both. So, it all depends on what's hitting me at the moment. And whatever the influence is, it could be an emotion. It could be something that's going on in my life, good or bad. It can be something I'm experiencing, something I see out in public. Whatever the influence is, it's going to make me put pen to paper. And whether it's going to be lyrics first or music first is going to depend on what comes to mind first. In Armada lately, it's just been the music because, again, Jose writes such incredible lyrics. There's no reason for me to throw them at him right now. He's got some great ideas. And he's always complimenting me on the music that I'm writing because it's now spurring him to write these lyrics where he wasn't writing for the longest time. He's got my music now as an inspiration that's making him want to write lyrics. And every time I record something in my studio and I send it to the guys, within a day or two, he's already texting me the lyrics that he's got. Like he's getting all these great ideas. So it's like we're kind of feeding off of each other's energy, and it's a lot of fun. We're enjoying it.
Yeah, is the lyrics and the music based on experiences?
There's a lot of. It's funny that you mention it because on June 15th, we're going to be doing a special storytellers show that we were asked to play. And it's going to be like the old VH1 show, Storytellers, where people play a song and then they talk about what it's about. There are a bunch of Armada songs that are autobiographical to Jose that we're going to do that night. Right now, I don't really think there's anything that he's writing where he's drawing from experiences. I think he's just writing based on the influence of what the music is inspiring him to write. I know when I was with my old band Cosmos Moon, the first album that we put out was back in 2006, 2007. Every song was autobiographical. Nearly every song that I've ever written, where I've written the music and the lyrics, there's some backstory behind it. I'm a tremendous Springsteen fan, as you know, because 9 years old, hearing Born to Run. Songwriting has always been something very personal to me. There has to be some basic resonance as to why I'm writing this lyric. I was never good at writing about sex. There are some people out there like Prince who could write a million songs about sex. Kiss, all the old stuff was about sex. I wrote one song of a sexual nature like 15, 16 years ago. I didn't even bother recording it. I looked at the lyrics. I'm like, oh, man, this is not me. Screw this. It's never seen the light of day and it never will. Leave it to the guys who can write about it. I write more about family stuff, deep emotional feeling stuff. I don't write politically. I don't write religiously. A lot of stuff is just like autobiographical things that have happened to me in my life, both good and bad. And then that's what I usually write about when I am writing lyrics. Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of musicians write songs based on experiences. I always wondered what, remember that song, Alone Again, Naturally, whether that was based on experience. That was, that's Gilbert O'Sullivan. It was an old song from the 70s, became a hit.
Yeah.
And then talking about Bruce Springsteen, you have that song that I'm on fire where it says, "Hey, little girl," and I'm thinking, "Hey, little girl, okay, what's that one about?"
Well, something, he was, he used the word little girl in a lot of his lyrics. And when the feminist movement was getting into full swing back in the 70s and the early 80s, there was a lot of feminists that were offended by him using that term. It wasn't him trying to, deride or belittle women. It was just the way the lyric fit. And that's all it was. And it was just a couple of words that fit the meter of what he was writing, because you have to have words that fit, phonetically and the way they sound in a sentence in order to make the lyric work. Sometimes the song doesn't have to have a particular meaning. It's just the way those words are phrased together. And he used the term little girl in a lot of his songs, but I've read interviews with him. He's like, has nothing to do with me looking down on women, but feminists certainly took it that way.
No, for me, it was like, "Oh, little girl, is your daddy home?" Like, okay, this is about pedophilia, isn't it?
You could look at it like that if you wanted to look at it from, that point of view.
No.
I don't think he was looking at it from that point of view. Listen, Kiss has a song called Christine 16 is about Gene Simmons driving past a high school and seeing what he thought was a beautiful young girl coming out of the school. All right. It's kind of obvious, but
there you go.
I don't think Springsteen, was going in that direction. I know Winger has a song called 17, about a 17-year-old girl, but yeah, I left that kind of stuff to those guys. I don't write about that kind of stuff.
Yeah. My favorite Bruce Springsteen song is "Streets of San Francisco," where he says, "My clothes don't fit me no more. A
Mm.
1,000 miles just to shed the skin." That was beautiful lyrics right there. Like every time I hear a song with lyrics like that, I have to listen to it again and again. I'm like,
Yeah.
what do they mean? What does it mean by that? What are some of your favorite songs to play live, Mark?
Every song by Armada right now, I'm loving. Every single one. The one that I love the most is probably The Overthrow. And it's one of the last songs we play. It's very progressive. It's a long song. It clocks in, I think, around 6 minutes or so. But it's got all these different sections that I absolutely love. Another one of my favorite songs is one of the newest ones that we're doing that we wrote together called Hightailing Home. It's got almost like a very funk rock groove to it, So those would be the ones that I love playing the most. I mean, I love all the songs that we're doing, but yeah, Overthrow and Hightailing Home are definitely two of my favorites.
Well, we want to play that one you did a live called
Fields of Fire.
Yeah, we want to play that one, and then share with us after what was going through your head. Now, everyone, it'll probably be like it's done live and it's recorded probably in some sort of recording device, because I know it's a great song, but you could hardly hear him sing. But we will play it, and then let us know what you think. Thank you, Mark.
All right. Zero.
Now, you want to introduce it again?
This is Fields of Fire, recorded live by Armada.
Let's do it. Excellent, Mark.
Thank
Excellent.
you. Thank you.
I see you slapping that guitar. I see you playing with all this power and must of a
Mhm.
musician, and then the lead singer and the drummer. It's amazing. Dean is a fantastic drummer,
He is.
and I understand in venues like that, unless your microphone is actually working, you can't really hear what he's saying. But listening to music, it's still pretty good, and I love it.
I,
So.
yeah, I mean that was recorded from my girlfriend's phone. I mean that wasn't like a live shot. It's just off of a regular phone. But you got to come out to see us live to really appreciate us. We're definitely like some bands are really great in the studio. We're definitely one of those bands that's really great live. The songs they come to live. They come to life when you see us play live.
I like what your T-shirt says. I'm not for. I think it says I'm not for every.
Oh, the one of
Yes.
the yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. I'm definitely not for everyone.
Definitely not. But you're here for us, so that's good. That was fantastic. I really love that song. So how did that come to be?
Well, again, I've been recording a lot of music here in my studio, and I'll record the drums, the bass, the guitar parts, and I put aside what I think is going to be good for the band, and then I put aside what I think is going to be good for my instrumental stuff. I had like this one song that has a beautiful Middle Eastern vibe, not unlike Kashmir by Led Zeppelin, you know,
Mm.
that I thought I was going to bring to the band, but I actually think it's going to be better off as one of my instrumentals. Fields of Fire, I wrote with the intention of I wanted to write a really good pop rock song. I wanted to write something that I know Jose can put some really cool lyrics to, that the band could learn, make it their own, and be a departure from what the usual Armada style might be. So it's
Wow.
very commercial. It's got a pop rock sensibility. Not everything has to be all crunching heavy guitars and whatnot. Not everything has to be bombastic. But the song has like an anthem sort of feel to it, and it's a really good sing along kind of song. And we've only done it a couple of times live. That one that you showed, that was the first time we ever played it live, and that song came together within a couple of weeks, and we've been using it live ever since.
Very well done.
Thank you.
Um, how does your creative process differ from album to album? I see a difference every song you do. To sort of like do
Yeah.
you do it on purpose, or is it just that every album you try to keep within the same musical conscience? I guess you call it.
I think if any artist keeps on writing the same style and churning out the same music album after album, number one, your audience is going to get tired. You know, you could have steak 7 nights a week and it can taste really damn good now. In a year's time, let me know how good that steak is tasting.
Yeah.
So I think for the listener to keep on churning out the same kind of stuff, you're going to lose your audience after a while. And I think anybody who writes music, you're going to become stagnant if all you're doing is churning out that same formula every single time. I never write two of the same style of songs in a row. I'm putting together stuff now that has the Middle Eastern vibe, a pop rock vibe, that heavy funk groove vibe. We have another song that we're doing called "I Don't Care." That it's a very fast double bass Judas Priest style song. That's the one that we have to do early in the set. Otherwise, Dean can run out of steam pretty easy. So the more you write, the more you create. You have to progress. You can't keep on dipping from the same well over and over. Sooner or later, that well's going to run out of water. And in order to want to create, you have to expand yourself. You have to push yourself and try something different. So that's why, like, as over time, the band has evolved, and it evolved many times over even before I got into the band. But now that I'm in and I'm one of the main songwriters now, the style is going to evolve. We're going to constantly evolve.
Well, I know that every song that's ever done is they just use four chords, but they isn't it true that they just use four chords? Like there was a couple of brothers who played every song of Britney, not every song, but Britney Spears, Christina Aguilera, and then um, all these different creative differences, but they only use four chords. So,
It's very possible, sure. Well, you got to think of it this way. A
mhm,
lot of these pop producers, they have a formula. And if you listen to a lot of popular music today,
mhm,
they all get to the chorus in under 60 seconds. From the time that song starts, from the intro to the verse, that first chorus is hitting at the 60-second mark or thereabouts. You know, you listen to songs from the bands from the 70s, Led Zeppelin, Rolling Stones, any of those bands from back in the day, you can sometimes go 3 or 4 minutes before you got to the chorus. It's not like that anymore. People don't have a long attention span anymore. People want instant gratification. By the time they're listening to the song, they're already bored. They want to hear the next song.
mm,
So there's just this factory out there of pop producers that are just churning and churning and churning the same old stuff. They're just regurgitating. Now, there's only 12 notes in the chromatic scale. How we intermix those 12 notes to create the songs, well, that's up to us, the artist, to do it. I never want to be that person that gets to the chorus in the first 60 seconds. If I write a song that does, it just happens to happen that way. But it's not my mindset that says, well, I have to write it in this meter and in this tempo with this chord structure every single time. Again, can't have steak 7 nights a week. I'm going to hate it after a while.
Are you familiar with the new song by Miley Cyrus called "Flowers"? It sounds just like "When I Was Your Man" by Bruno Mars because he helped her write
No,
it.
I haven't heard it yet. All right.
But you're familiar with Elton John. You're familiar with Red Hot Chili Peppers, but they had a song called "Sick Love," and when you listen to it, it has Elton John vibes. In fact, it not only Elton John vibes, it has Benny and the Jets vibes because Elton helped Anthony write the song. That's why it sounds like Benny at the Jets in the beginning.
That's going to be a vibe. I mean, look at Ed Sheeran.
Yeah.
Ed Sheeran just got sued for having a
Oh,
song that sounded like somebody else's song, and he proved otherwise. You know,
you can't. That's right. You can't steal someone's chords. You can't steal someone's melody because you're just doing the chromatic scale, right? It's
that's it.
ridiculous.
It's only 12 notes in the scale. You got to mix them up so it doesn't sound like the last guy who did it.
Exactly. What are some of the challenges you face as a band?
Uh, well, being an original band of Long Island definitely has its challenges because where we're from, it's the cover and tribute band capital of the world. And again, I'm not knocking those who are in those kind of bands. If that's what you want to do, you could do very, very well. You know, I know some people that all they do is play in tribute bands and they're making careers out of it. Like they can quit the day job and do it. It's almost like being in a wedding band. So the challenge to be an original artist on Long Island is that there are not many places to play anymore. You know, the 1970s and the 1980s, Long Island was a hotbed of original music. You know, going back into the late 60s, early 70s when Billy Joel was a nobody, you know, before he hit big. You know, he's from Long Island. You had Twisted Sister, you had Joan Jett, you had Zebra, Rat Race Choir, the Good Rats. You know, there was a whole plethora of bands that developed this scene. And over the years, it's just evolved into the cover bands and the tribute bands. So we do find that we get a better response when we play in Brooklyn. I myself have done some great shows in Manhattan with my old band, Pennsylvania, New Jersey. So the struggle is to really find your place as an original band here. So that would be like the struggles. As you get older, you know, I just turned 57 recently.
Wow.
You know, the audience doesn't go out as much. They stay home. You know, a lot of my friends are homebodies, you know, so that's also a challenge. But, you know, something we enjoy doing it, whether we're playing to a packed house or we're playing to a few dozen people. We love the music. We love each other's company. We love the vibe we get. We play with some really, really good promoters who take care of us very, very well. And you know, somebody asked me once. It wasn't like so much they asked me. I don't have an ego or an attitude when it comes to music. People compliment me on my guitar playing. There's guys out there that can run rings around me. I'm just a guy that makes it sound good, but I'm just an average player. I don't have an ego. And I was talking to somebody once, and maybe I might have been saying, hey, my band just played this great gig or something. And that person was like, you act like you're a rock star. You think you play Madison Square Garden. Nobody knows who you are. And I'm like, well, people do kind of know who I am because we live on a friggin' island. Everybody knows everything. I can go to Guitar Center in Carl Place, and someone's going to know I'm the guitar player from Armada because I'm in there all the time. And we live on a friggin' island, folks. So I was like, you know what my measure of success has been? Because if I wanted to make a career out of music, I would have left New York when I was 18 years old. I would have moved to California. I would have got a job as a session guitar player when LA was the hot spot, the way Nashville is now. But my life took a different path. I got married, had kids, had a career. So music has always been like the side thing for me. My measure of success as a musician is knowing that I have done a whole bunch of shows over the years where we played my original music and the people in the audience were singing along to the songs.
That's what you want. People are paying attention.
Has nothing to do with the money, signing autographs, a couple of endorsements here and there. No. My success, what has given me the satisfaction and the desire to still do it, is seeing people singing along to songs that I wrote. That, to me, was my measure of success. That's all I've ever wanted.
Well, Hannah, your tale is famous now. Stay there, please. Yeah, that's amazing. Wow, what a situation to be in, to be part of a band and just performing. It's amazing. But Mark, how do you balance maintaining a creative vision with making commercial promises?
It's a give and take. We want to be commercially viable, but again, no one is ever going to mistake us for a boy band. It's not going to happen. We're not looking to be a bubblegum band. We play the music we play. We write the songs that we write. Listen, if it was up to me, yeah, I'd be doing Dream Theater style of music. 14, 15-minute long songs, playing a million notes a second. But Dream Theater already cornered the market on that. So I can't do that. We create from the heart. We play from the heart. And there's a bunch of people out there who dig what we do. And that's who we play for. Not trying to be the flavor of the week. Not trying to be the next trend, because trends go out of style. Trends go out of style before they become a trend. It's a very fast-paced world out there. Internet has created that. We just want to play music that we like, that we believe in, to people who like it and believe in it as well.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. So there's up-and-coming bands or singers or musicians out there. Any words of wisdom for up-and-coming bands out there trying to make it in the music industry?
Well, first off, you got to learn your craft. There's no excuse to not learn how to play your instrument. No one says you got to be a virtuoso, but you got to learn your craft. A carpenter has to learn how to swing a hammer before he builds a house.
That's true.
Take the time to write good songs, but write everything. Write everything down. Record everything. Gene Simmons from Kiss will write 50 songs per album.
Oh, wow.
Maybe 3 or 4 of them make it to the album. You can't catch a fish unless you throw some hooks in the water. So I would say write, create, put pen to paper, record little bits of ideas. The next thing I would say is network with other bands. It's not a competition. There's a lot of bands out there that their intention is, we want to go on stage, we want to blow everybody away, we're going to obliterate this place. Maybe so, but your attitude sucks and nobody wants to work with you. So network with people, get out there, support other bands. You know, when we play live, we don't just leave when our set is done. We stay there to watch the other bands.
Excellent. Yes, that
You
makes a
know,
good band doing that. Yeah.
yeah, build a scene. You know, I've been in bands where, you know, and sometimes myself included, because maybe I had to get up for work in 3 hours or something like that. You know, where you got to go. I get it. But we've done some shows with bands where as soon as they're done, they're gone. They're out the door. You know, learn to network with each other. Take advantage of whatever social media platforms you have. That's one of the reasons why I love having Jerry. As internet savvy as I am, Jerry is phenomenal. Like he handles the band's Instagram page. You know, he's good at getting the word out in that respect. So I would say learn your instruments, write good songs, network well with other bands, get yourself out there in all different types of social media platforms, and build your audience. Like my son's band, they play, again, the most brutal death metal, but he's in a national act because they've taken the time for the 5 guys to get into a van and drive cross country and play a lot of little rinky-dink places and play some big venues along the way. And he's built a name for himself.
That's pretty cool.
He's in that genre, my son, Mark Valentino Jr., he's a household name.
Oh, wow, that's amazing.
Yeah,
yes.
he actually played with a death metal band from Canada late last year that heard of him. They needed him to cover for their guitar player. I think it was up in Vancouver somewhere. They'll probably be screaming at me because I got it wrong, but it was a band called Integrity. Death metal band from Canada, and they flew him up to do a couple of shows just based on the strength of knowing who he was from his band.
Yeah, I like to see a lot of his work and try to. You can do it. Come on, up. I like to see my cat jump high to go on top of the cat tree there. You won't see it.
Okay.
So yes, that's amazing. Well, oh, there we go. So I'm going to ask 2 more questions, 2 deep questions. But before we do, everyone, please hit that subscribe button, and also we'll have to update your description because we have to. Once this stream is over, we'll fix that up. If anybody has any questions, just type a Q and then the question, and we'll get Mark his best to try to answer it. The 3 of you that are still watching, or the others that are still watching, and we will try to get Mark to answer. So one of the questions I want to ask is, how can fans stay up to date with the band's activities? Is there something, any information you can send me that will allow them to contact you, and how they would contact you in case they want merchandise? Or
the best would be the website, armadarockband.com. They can sign up for our mailing list from there. We have our entire show schedule on there. I use my personal Facebook page, Mark Valentino, as the biggest platform to promote the band. We also have the Armada Facebook page as well, and we have our Instagram page. So we're out there on social media. The website, at least the website, has a lot of information about us. It has a lot of our music up there, live videos, and again, the show schedule. So armadarockband.com, best place to find us.
Okay, well, everyone, just we're going to end the stream within the next 5 minutes or so. So if you have a question, ask. But I have some questions. Someone asked some. Do you clean your own guitars?
Do I clean them?
Clean them or repair them, such as buying new strings, putting them on, having it fixed, putting the neck on?
Well, I build guitars also. So I short of the wiring of the guitars, I can pretty much do anything I need to do.
Nice.
I do have a really great friend of mine named Peter Masillo, who is one of the best guitar techs in the business. He was Steve Vai's guitar tech for a while. So if you can work on Steve Vai's guitars, Steve Vai's a local Long Island guy. So Pete, I met Pete. He was working in a Guitar Center 20 years ago as a guitar tech, and just a very friendly guy, and we hit it off. We've been amazingly close friends ever since. And anything I can't do on the guitar, I know he can do it for me. But yeah, I change my own strings. I build my own guitars. I do neck setups, intonations, and things like that. Yeah, for the most part, I can pretty much do what I need to do. When it comes to the wiring stuff, that's where Pete comes in. So if I buy a new set of pickups for a guitar, he's the guy who's going to put them in.
Well, sadly, a lot of these people thought that the whole band was going to be on here, like Dean or Jerry Vance. We'll just ask you questions relating to the guitar. Wanted to ask, and I've had this question asked before, and I got to answer a few responses. Have you played the 2, 3, 4 neck guitars, and what do you think of them?
I used to own a double neck. It was a 12-string neck and a 6-string neck, like the Jimmy Page Stairway to Heaven type guitar. Very heavy, and it was hard keeping the 12-string neck in tune. I think I used it at one show with my old band Cosmos Moon, I think back in 2006, 2007. These multi-neck guitars, 3 necks, 4 necks, 5 necks, like the ones that Rick Nielsen from Cheap Trick uses.
Yes.
There's some really great ones out there. I mean, Rick Nielsen has that 5-neck guitar. He brings it out for one song. It's a novelty. I love multi-neck guitars. I'm thinking about building another double neck guitar myself. I love the versatility of them. It's just sometimes with the 12-string necks, they're really hard to keep in tune, especially when you're playing, shows where if it's really warm and muggy outside, and now you're playing in a cold air-conditioned venue, the neck's going to shift on you. You're tuning up and whatnot, but they're cool. Yeah, multi-neck guitars are a lot of fun. Very versatile. A lot of applications.
And that's amazing. A couple more questions. The next question is, do you still get pre-show jitters?
Yes. Weirdly, oddly enough. And, it's weird because, I do public speaking for a living. I'm a fire safety and emergency preparedness consultant in Manhattan, and I have to give lectures. Yeah, I teach classes. I don't get jitters when I'm standing in front of 200-300 people giving an active shooter training. But
oh my goodness,
I still get the jitters going on stage. The first show I did with Armada back in November, I was like, I looked calm, cool, and collected on the outside, but inside I was, shaking like a leaf. I think it's just because I probably psych myself out. I'm always thinking, oh man, what if my guitar goes out of tune? Oh man, what if my amp blows up? Oh man, what if if I don't play right or something like that? But usually after the first song, I'm good. It's that first song that it's all those what ifs that are going on in my mind. I really don't drink. I'm not a big drinker. I know some guys need to get a couple of shots in them to loosen them up before a show. I don't do that. I want to be very, very focused and lucid while I'm playing. But yeah, I still get a little pre-show jitter, and it could be to a small, intimate audience or a big crowd. It's both the same. I still get a little bit of the jitters.
I love those answers. 2 more questions here based on you, of course. You're going to love one of these, but this one probably you've been given so many times. Can you play your guitar blindfolded?
Yes. 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 I try not to look at the guitar as much. I used to be the guy that used to just look at it the whole time. But I realized then you're not connecting with the audience. And even though it's Jose's job to be out there and grab people by the throat and bring them in, he's the front man. We're still on stage. I know what it's like to go see bands that make no eye contact. And there's a disconnect between the audience and the band. And I've seen some shows where the band was just so phenomenally into what they were doing and making that eye contact and gesturing at people. I walked away feeling exhilarated. I want the same for the people that come to see us play. So I try to make it a conscious effort to not just sit there and look at the guitar while I'm playing, but to look at the audience. So yeah, in most cases, if you had to blindfold me, I can make it work. Definitely.
Okay, so I have two questions here. I don't know if you want to answer them, but um, okay. Do you want to answer question number one or question number two in this twofold question?
Whichever one you want.
Okay. Oh God. If you were drunk, would you be able to play the guitar better than you were sober?
No, no, nah. Um, I remember very early on with my old band Cosmos Moon, a couple of times. I'm not a big drinker,
Mhm.
and it's weird. I mean, I do enjoy really good um, Kentucky bourbon. I enjoy some Tennessee whiskey. I have a beautiful collection of small batch bourbons and whiskeys, but I'm not a drinker on a regular basis. I could have bottles in this house for years.
Mm.
So, once in a great while, me and Rosemary will sit outside. We've got a fire pit. We'll share a cigar. We'll share like this small little glass of whiskey together, and that's about it. So I
Mm.
never really played drunk on stage. I've had more experience with bandmates who were so freaking drunk on stage that it impaired their abilities to play.
Oh wow.
That pissed me off more than anything else in the
Mm.
world. Listen, what you do in your personal life, the way you live your personal life, that's up to you. I'm a true Christian. I gave my life to Christ back in January of 2021. I'm a
Same
born again.
here.
Moved
Same
away
here,
from
brother.
the
Awesome.
church. Yeah, Pastor Steve Milazzo is one of my closest friends, and he's one of my
Woo-hoo.
spiritual advisors. I don't judge.
Mhm.
Judge not, yes, lest ye be judged yourself. I don't judge. But if you and I are performing on stage
Mhm.
and you're drunk off your ass and you're messing up your parts and you're dragging this entire thing down, we have a problem. Now your drinking is becoming a problem.
Well, I
I
told
always,
you those questions. Yeah.
yeah, I always try to tell people, that I play with, let's stay sober for the gig. After the show, you do what you want, you know. So I've never, maybe once early on, I might have had a couple of drinks in me that, if I recall, I didn't like the way I presented myself on stage. That I never have a drink before a show. Like I said, I'm not a big drinker to begin with, and I can have bottles in my house for years that go untouched. The problem has been more with bandmates who imbibed a little too much before the show,
Mhm.
and it was representative of the way they played on stage, and it was embarrassing. And people pay good money to see you. You don't want to let them down. And you don't want to be remembered as that band with, oh, yeah, that drunken idiot on stage. Remember those guys? Oh, yeah, screw that. We're not going to go see them again. No, don't want that. So it's not been so much me being the problem of having a drink on stage. It's been playing with people who did imbibe a little too much, and it impaired their abilities.
Oh yeah, brother. I had no idea you're a Christian, but I would have taken care with that question. I wouldn't have asked you, but now I'm embarrassed. But
I got my Christ on my show.
yes, awesome. Yes, you're not preaching to the choir, my friend. I've been there, done. I know exactly. Like, I'm so happy that I was able to have another believer on the podcast here. So
And
everyone,
my faith is very, very important to me. Very strong belief.
yes, don't forget to read Psalm 100 when you get a chance. Okay, everyone, please, we're going to end the stream, but could you give me a few questions? One more question for him. Going once, going twice. Okay, I think we had fun here, and we
Yeah,
had a wonderful time on the podcast. Um, so I don't think we have any more questions, and we're going to end the stream. Thank you, Mark Valentino, guitars for Armada. Thank you to the rest of your band of beautiful music, beautiful sound. Um, just give me a moment. I have to go into something here. Okay, everyone, we're gonna end the stream. Again, like everyone else has a YouTube channel, hit the subscribe button for more content. And thank you, Mark, for taking the time. And I really appreciate it. And for the emails going back and forth and the discussions, I'm sure we can communicate again. Okay,
absolutely.
everyone, we are ending this stream, and I'm gonna have to try to figure out how to do it so it works out here. All right, so we're gonna. I'm going to. Shoot. Sorry.
Okay.
I don't have a one of my USB ports is broken, so I have to use my little thing that the laptop has in the middle here.
Okay.
So 1, 2. Oh, you know what? It's not going to work that way. So let's just end it. I'm just going to remove us from the screen. See you, everyone.
Take care. Thanks for having me.
Bye.
Bye.